Namaste. Can you hear me all right? You can hear me all right. It's a pleasure to be once again with you and to see you all looking so happy. Here at Lakemont, we are just concluding a short weekend retreat. We've had many of our members and new friends here who arrived on Friday. We had programs all day yesterday, and we'll have the final program this morning when we have our group meditation at 10 a.m. our time. So it's a good weekend. So let's begin with meditation. Sit upright and be poised and comfortable. Open your mind and your essence of being to the infinite. And however that ultimate reality is known or imagined by you, acknowledge it as omnipresent, everywhere present. And therefore it is present right where we are, right here where I am, and right there where you are. It is everywhere present. And so we live in it, and we are nurtured by it. And at the level of being, or spirit, or soul, we are immortal units of the pure essence of that one ultimate reality. So let's acknowledge everyone in the world and beyond with goodwill, and acknowledge with reverence and thankfulness the great saints of all enlightenment traditions, and acknowledge the truth of our own being, that we are at the deepest level already one with the infinite, and that infinite reality and its processes in the realm of nature, all of it is known within us. We have that knowledge within us of it and its processes. Remember that meditation is an opportunity for allowing the mind to become calm, for the emotions to be peaceful, for our awareness to be clear, so that we can more easily be aware of our true, changeless essence or nature. So when we meditate, it is not necessary to struggle to attempt to attain a high state of consciousness or to become spiritual. But all we are doing is allowing thoughts to settle, emotions to settle, and awareness to become clear, so that the truth of what we are is naturally self-evident or self-revealed. So I emphasize frequently that the processes that result in spiritual enlightenment, conscious awareness and knowledge of the truth of our being and our relationship with the infinite, that those processes are really processes of self-revelation, an unveiling and an emerging or revealing of the knowledge that is already within us. So let your breathing flow smoothly. Be aware of your breathing. Feel the air coming in through the entrance of your nostrils evenly. Cool sensation at the entrance of the nostrils as the air comes in, because your nostrils are somewhat moist and the air creates a cool sensation. And then the air is warmed in your lungs, and when you exhale, you feel the warmth of the air moving out through the nostrils. So be aware of the even flow of air as you breathe in and as you breathe out. The usefulness of doing this is that when you have your attention focused on breathing, it is easy to have your attention withdrawn from or disengaged from ordinary restless thinking processes. So it's easier to be self-aware, undistracted. Then eventually disregard the movement of the air in the nostrils and let breathing flow easily. And then be aware of those moments which naturally occur from time to time, usually after you have inhaled and after you have exhaled, a moment of pause or stillness. And during those moments of stillness, notice how your awareness is inclined to be free from thoughts, that it is easier to be aware in the moment, conscious, alert, without the support of thoughts or emotions. And when you become familiar with this experience, it enables you to eventually assume that viewpoint at will, so that you can meditate very quickly and easily. When you first sit to meditate, you can quickly get into meditation. And when you're not meditating, when you choose to be centered or poised and not affected emotionally by what you observe or what is occurring around you, you can be the silent witness or the observer, peaceful and calm in the midst of activity. So let your breathing just flow naturally, and then be aware of those moments of stillness. And notice how, as you become more relaxed, your mind becomes more clear. And while you are sitting in the silence, it can be helpful to have your awareness involved with the front part of your brain between the eyebrows. And this will help you to stay internalized and help you to keep your attention removed from emotions and thoughts. After a while, you can disregard the breathing and just be still in the silence. And then you may notice that your innate intelligence directs the meditation process, that your meditation is occurring spontaneously or effortlessly. Your innate or inner urge to be more conscious becomes strongly influential, and meditation flows smoothly and easily. Deeper and deeper, more and more quiet, more and more peaceful, and more spiritually satisfying. And now, before concluding this short practice session, turn your attention to all of the people of the world. More than 7 billion people on the planet, and mentally radiate goodwill to everyone, everywhere. Pray for or wish for their highest good, meaning their total well-being, health, happiness, prosperity, harmonious relationships, harmonious environmental circumstances, and above all, spiritual awareness. And as you do this, if thoughts of people that you know, family members, friends, co-workers, others in your community or world, or even people who are no longer in this world, who have passed on, who have predeceased you, include everyone in this compassionate moment of sharing goodwill with everyone, everywhere. Because in the wholeness of this reality of what we call God, this ultimate reality, there is no division or separation between planes and realms of manifestation or realms of consciousness. There is only oneness. And when you practice this process privately when you meditate, sit for as long as you want to sit in the deep silence, contemplating wholeness, oneness, and be established in that. Let's chant Om once. Om. All right. It's useful to remember that our spiritual awakening and our spiritual enlightenment is not only for us, it is for everyone. And because there is only one universal consciousness, sometimes referred to as the collective consciousness, or the consciousness that is made up or formed of the consciousness of all people and all living things. And therefore, when we are more enlightened, more spiritually conscious, our presence on the planet or in space and time beneficially influences everyone. Everyone in this field of consciousness, which we all share, is benefited when we are more spiritually enlightened. So many times people ask, what can I do to help my world? What can I do to help others? Well, of course, there are practical things that we can do. But also, most important is we can see to our own spiritual well-being. Because if we are not spiritually conscious, even though we have good intentions to help other people, we cannot effectively help others, spiritually at least, unless we are spiritually conscious. We can only share with others what we have to share in our consciousness. So it's important for us to see to our daily schedule of prayer and meditation. And you've heard me speak before about how through the ages in many cultures that it has been taught that one of the major problems that many people have is self and God forgetfulness. So getting involved with daily activities, social activities, personal responsibilities, being aware of the national and international news events, sometimes can pull our attention outward, and we become forgetful of our spiritual essence, our spiritual nature, and even forgetful temporarily of God or this ultimate reality. And so it's helpful, until we are always established in this self-aware or self-knowing consciousness, it's helpful to do things to keep us on track, to keep us focused and alert and knowledgeable about our relationship with the infinite. That's why we emphasize daily reading of some inspirational material, scripture of your choice, or writings by enlightened people, daily meditation and prayer, because this anchors us, this helps us be settled in this awareness of what we are in relationship to the wholeness of the larger life. And after a while, it's easy to always be aware inwardly of our true nature and the fact that we live in a spiritual universe, and to experience harmony and right action all the time in our everyday affairs. But back to meditation practice, I mentioned the usefulness of getting to that stage of being very quiet. When the mind is calm, emotions are settled. But every now and then, I'm sure you've experienced it, every now and then, when you're in a quiet, calm state, there can be sudden or unplanned interruptions or disturbances that occur. And this is because our attention is temporarily distracted, or it may be that we have not been completely settled down, and the impulses that ordinarily arise, that activate thoughts and emotions, suddenly become active again. And all of a sudden we start to think about something, or we have visual imagery like dreams, or we have physical sensations, or memories surface and dominate our attention for the moment. And what we have to do is not fight, not resist, but simply withdraw our attention from those distracting conditions and get back inside, peaceful and centered and calm again. And with practice, we can learn to stay there. Every now and then, a little agitation, a little disturbance may occur, but eventually we can be there most of the time in the very calm, concentrated, conscious, aware state of consciousness. And this comes with practice. We learn to meditate actually by practicing. We learn how, the techniques and methods and forms of practice. We can learn from others and from books, but we actually learn how to do it by doing it, because then we can notice by personal experience what is happening, what is occurring inside. As the breathing becomes slower, the body becomes relaxed, the mind becomes more calm, and our awareness becomes more clear. And then, by repeated attentive practice, we become very skillful, very proficient meditators. So it just takes time and concentrated endeavor to accomplish, but it can be done. When I began to meditate almost 70 years ago, I went through the early challenges of attention suddenly being distracted, or finding myself in a passive state, sort of half asleep or not paying attention to what was happening. But with practice, I learned to stay alert and to stay focused. And it's helpful when meditating to be sure you sit upright, not rigid like this, but upright and poised, with your attention up here. Recent studies, working with volunteer subjects, volunteer people, studies of meditation indicate that when people are meditating effectively, the front part of the brain, called the prefrontal lobes of the brain, are involved in that process. And it just so happens that that region of the brain is associated with controlling impulses, making decisions, being decisive, being intentional, being able to concentrate. And that's why in many traditions, teachers will say, when you sit to meditate, put your attention here, because they know from experience that the front part of the brain is associated with those positive characteristics which are helpful to have when we are meditating. And also it helps us to avoid becoming drowsy. If when you are meditating you notice that your head is dropping like this and you're becoming sleepy, or we say heavy or thick-headed or dull, and you notice that, then sit up. Don't let your head drop. Don't slump. Don't go like this. Sit up. And if you can't avoid being sleepy or drowsy or inattentive, for a while, open your eyes and look straight forward without looking at anything, without focusing. A steady gaze. Don't allow your eyes to move. Your eyelids will move, of course, to lubricate your eyes, but steady gazing, just like this. And when you experiment doing that, you may notice that for a few seconds, when you first do it, that your breath stops. Don't panic, don't be concerned, because in time the body will start breathing, you'll be all right, no problem. But it's like perhaps you'll notice when you're doing something that requires your careful attention, like threading a needle. or doing some very precise action, that for a moment you stop breathing. You just like that. But you just sit and look straight ahead without looking out there at anything, and just be there for a while. And then when you feel inclined, you can close your eyes and still be there in the moment. That meditation process is used in some spiritual traditions, such as the Zen Buddhist tradition. It's called Vipassana meditation or insight meditation. And it's the same as yoga meditation, but it's just a different form or just a different procedure. And for our insight meditation, people will sit with their eyes open for 30 minutes. And the idea is to be attentive in the moment. Don't be thinking about mathematical problems or your history or your shopping list or what you've seen on the evening news. Just be in the moment. Cultivate the ability to be there in the moment. Like that, for at least 20 or 30 minutes. And with practice, you'll learn that you can sit and you can be still without moving and be fully conscious in the moment. And as a result of doing that, you will experience that it is very restful to the body and the mind. It is very refreshing. Provides you an opportunity to be centered, consciously centered in the moment, with your attention easily removed from the troubles of the day or the responsibilities of the day and from the memories and feelings. You're just there in the moment, but consciously so. That's the idea. Not asleep, but conscious. And that state of being consciously aware in the moment is what is called a superconscious state. Just yesterday, someone asked the question here at the retreat, what is superconsciousness? Well, the word super means superior to, above, beyond, or superior to something. So superconscious is being superior to or other than ordinary states of consciousness. Our ordinary states of consciousness or awareness are, as you know, mixed, usually mixed with thoughts and feelings. And they shift and they move. And some yogis say they have wave-like movements. And that's why our attention is easily distracted. But this is true when a person is unconscious in deep sleep. There is still some occasional arousal of impulses that stir feeling a little bit. Then when a person is dreaming, then of course it's more obvious that the mind is stimulated, because dreaming is an opportunity, according to neuroscience, is an opportunity for the perceptions, what we have observed and thought about and experienced the day before or several days before, to be filed with the memories in the subconscious. And this process of filing away these perceptions and with the memories that are already there result in dreams. That's why dreams are sometimes so unpredictable and so erratic and strange. You say, where's all that coming from? It's out of your mind. Your mind is reshuffling perceptions and mental pictures and ideas. And it's necessary to dream every night, because if you don't dream, after a few days, when you're awake, you'll begin to hallucinate. You'll begin to see things that aren't there, that are projected out there in space, because your mind is going to have to undergo the process of filing away all of these memories. It's going to do it sooner or later. And if it doesn't occur when you're dreaming, it'll start doing it when you're awake, and you'll start having hallucinations, and that's not a healthy situation. You don't want to have hallucinations. But also sleep, enough sleep, whatever you need, 6 or 7 or 8 hours of sleep is necessary for your body to be rested and restored, not only for your mind to be restored, but your body to be restored and rebalanced, and also for your brain to be detoxified, because you probably know your brain uses a major percentage, maybe 30% of the energy of your body that is provided by food. Your brain does a lot of work, so you need to rest your brain at night when you sleep. But then in the waking state, when we're awake like this, we are aware, we are attentive, we are aware, thoughts are constantly moving in the mind. Emotions are shifting, memories are coming up and going down, and our attention is inclined to be easily distracted unless we are very focused. That's because the mind is modified by the movements that occur in our mind and awareness. And so what the yogis say, and Patanjali mentions this in his Yoga Sutra treatise, what the yogis say is, learn to calm the wave-like movements in the mind. And when the mind is calm, awareness is calm, the opportunity for self-knowing or self-recognition is present. So we get the troublesome conditions out of the way, and then meditation can flow more easily. So I emphasize what I call the direct way to spiritual awakening. Direct means get right to it without being distracted or deviating from a right course of action. And so this, and self-realization, of course, realization is experience and knowledge of something. So self-realization is experience and knowledge of our essential nature, our essence, our spiritual nature, what we really are. So there are some reasons why we don't experience satisfying spiritual awakening. One reason may be that we aren't even aware of the possibility of being more spiritually conscious. Or if we are aware of the possibility, if we've heard about the possibility, we may not be interested. You perhaps know some people without judgment. You perhaps know some people, if you begin to talk about spirituality, they say, I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in making money or being happy in a human way or getting a better job. I don't even want to talk about spirituality. There are some people who have that attitude. In due time, they will change, of course, because everyone eventually aspires to be spiritually conscious because of their innate urge to be spiritually awake. But a lot of people just aren't interested in spirituality at the moment. Then a person may be interested but not know how to nurture their spiritual awareness, not know what to do to become more conscious. And then another problem is a person may know what to do but not do it. not be inclined to do it, or may procrastinate or put off doing it, make excuses for not doing it. I'm too busy. I can't accomplish. I'm not very good at doing these things. I have too much karma, or I have too many troublesome psychological conditions to work with and to overcome. In other words, they know what to do, but they don't do it. That's a common problem. And then the most common problem is mistaken identification or of self-identity. Many people, if you say to them, "What are you?" they'll start to describe their personality characteristics or their genetic background, their ancestry, or perhaps their accomplishments, but all related to the physical form or the personality or what they have done or what they plan to do. Of course, behind the mask, the word personality is from the Greek persona, which means a mask. In the old days, in Greek and Greece, and even more recently in Japan, stage actors, people performing on the stage, would wear a mask. They indicate the character and the role they were portraying, and it was called the persona. So our persona, our personality, is the mask that we show to the world. It is the mask through which we express when we relate to other people. And many people mistakenly think that they are that I am this personality that I've created, or that I have become, or that I project to others. This is what I am, which is not the truth at all. It's only an appearance. It is because it is constantly changing. That personality is constantly changing, or at least it is subject to changing. There are some people, of course, who are very rigid and don't want to change. But usually there is the possibility of psychological transformation, psychological change over a period of time. So what happens is many people are strongly identified with their personal sense of self-identity, and which is called in Western psychology ego. And that was popularized by Sigmund Freud, who was a German-born Austrian psychiatrist in the 1800s. And the word ego comes from German, das Ich, or the I, or the sense of I, what I am. And in the yoga literature, there is a parallel or similar reference or connection where it is explained that the Sanskrit word ahamkara means the I maker, or that which causes the sense of I-ness to be experienced. And it is said to be the result of an intellectual error, that is, inability or failure to recognize that we are spiritual beings playing roles through our personality. But many people identify with the role, with the personality, and say, this is what I am. This is my sense of self-identity. And it's true, we have to have a personality and a sense of self-identity in order to function effectively in our world, in order to relate to others, and it's sort of the intermediate stage between the outer and the inner. But it's only that. It is a mask through which we express, through which we view the world, and really behind which we hide, or behind which many people are concealed. So, but inside, deep inside, is that changeless reality that we are. So what yogis say, and mystics of other traditions say, purify the ego, purify this sense of what I am. Don't try to get rid of it because you have to function in the world, but purify it. Inwardly realize I am not that personality-oriented character. That is simply what I present to the world and what I work through to express and to relate to others. But inside, I am the changeless knower and witness of everything that happens. I am immortal. And I'm sure all of you on occasion have had the experience, perhaps on your birthday, or as years go by, you look in the mirror and you say, I see some changes have occurred through the years, but very strangely enough, and deep inside, I don't feel any different. I feel that I'm always me. I'm always who I am and what I am deep inside. The body changes, my personality changes, my behavior sometimes improves, but I don't change. I am immortal. And that's true. At that level of being, we are immortal. As the character Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, which represents enlightened consciousness, is made to say by the author of the allegory, the text. Krishna speaks to Arjuna, his disciple, and reminds Arjuna, never was the spirit born, and never will it die. It is eternal, changeless, pure, constant, and so on. He's talking about the essence. It doesn't begin and it doesn't end and it doesn't change. Just as the pure essence of ultimate reality, or what people refer to as God, they use different words to refer to that reality. Just as the pure essence of that reality, the transcendent essence, doesn't change, we don't change. And just that pure essence never had a beginning. That's something to think about or contemplate when you're just wanting to reflect on something. And how can there be something that has always existed? That's sort of amazing when you think about it, isn't it? How can there be something that has always existed and never started, never had a beginning, and will never change and will never end? How can that possibly be? That's worth looking at and thinking about and pondering and contemplating. And hopefully, as we do that, some revelations will come forth, some understanding will occur, and we'll begin to see how that is so. We may not understand immediately how it can be, but we begin to understand that it is so. There is that which is absolutely pure and forever what it is and changeless. So this is true of us at a deeper level, since we are units of that pure essence, and that's what we want to become aware of all the time, not only when meditating. It's one thing to meditate and experience a state of what we call transcendence, of extreme clarity. That is very beneficial. And in fact, it is over a period of time, repeated episodes of that kind are beneficial at various levels. Super consciousness that prevails during those occasions mixes with the mind and physical systems and strengthens the body's immune system and slows biological aging processes and improves powers of concentration and helps the mind to be more coordinated and well ordered, calms the emotions, weakens and somewhat neutralizes troublesome subconscious conditions that interfere with thinking and function. So these are the so-called side benefits of meditation, which is why everyone should meditate, even people who are not on a spiritual path or are not interested in spirituality. If they would meditate on a regular schedule effectively, they would have these side benefits, these psychological and physiological benefits and improvements, more clarity of awareness, ability to function more effectively, the ability to handle stress and to manage stress more effectively. There are many people in all walks of life all around the world now who are meditating for these side benefits. I know business executives who have very important high-pressure responsibilities, and they say that their meditation practice, daily meditation, helps them to retain their peace of mind and their sanity. It helps them to think straight and to be more emotionally settled while they are involved with their executive activities. And we already know that from observation that people who meditate, who have to undergo a surgical procedure, they have less stress, less anxiety about the event to occur, and heal more rapidly. So there are many positive side benefits that can be experienced as a result of meditating on a regular schedule. But the ultimate aim of meditation is to be self-aware, we call it self-realized. And beyond that, to be aware of this larger reality and what it is and our relationship to it. And then beyond that, to have our awareness so clarified that there are no dark spots in our consciousness. That is, there are no delusions, there are no false or erroneous ideas or notions or opinions in the mind and consciousness, and no longer any flawed perceptions. Whatever we observe, we understand accurately what it is. We just see it in totality. Then, eventually, even the deeper levels of the subconscious level of the mind are purified, and the psychological conflicts and the troublesome tendencies and habits and addictive inclinations and traumas and unpleasant memories, they're all cleaned up. They're all neutralized, all flushed out. And pretty soon we're totally pure at all levels of our being. And meditation can help experience this ideal situation. Of course, there's a lot we can do by making wise choices when we're not meditating. Often we can make choices to give up troublesome or harmful habits, to change our behaviors that are not proper or appropriate, to train ourselves to do what we need to do when we need to do it, to avoid procrastination and delay, to eat right, to think right, to relate to others compassionately and fairly, and in supportive ways, to pay our bills on time, to maintain manage our material resources wisely. We don't have to be spiritually enlightened to be able to do some of these basic important things. There are many people who are doing these things very effectively who are not spiritually enlightened. They say, well, it's just common sense. If you want to live happily and freely and more successfully and be a useful citizen in the community, do these things. And so they do these things. So you don't have to be spiritually enlightened to do a lot of the positive things that are very helpful. So it's a matter of knowing what to do that is proper or best to do and doing it. And this can quicken our spiritual awakening. Because when we do what is useful, proper, and constructive, then this brings forth our innate capacities to function more effectively. Our capacities to function effectively become more pronounced, more evident, more available to us when we use our creative abilities wisely. And when we, just like when we endeavor to understand higher realities or philosophical concepts, when we endeavor to understand with rational thinking, first getting accurate information available, then thinking rationally, then using our ability to discriminate or discern, we become more proficient in thinking rationally and in using our intellectual powers. Some people say, who are on the spiritual path, they say, oh, I'm a devotional type. I'm not very intellectual. I'm not very good at knowing what I want to know, but I'm very good at feeling. And so I like to chant and perform rituals and love God and love other people, and that's my way. Well, it's all right to have a devotional temperament, but I recommend balancing that tendency with also rational thinking and development of intellectual capacities. And on the other hand, we don't want to be so intellectual and cold and distant and aloof that we can't relate to other people, and that we don't have any feeling of reverence for higher realities or for God, or we don't have devotion and we're cold and unfeeling. That's not enjoyable either. So I recommend a balance of devotion and intellect and reason and constructive living and meditation practice. And so we have a balanced, worthwhile routine for living. And we know we're on the right track when we feel right about what we're doing. When conditions are working out more harmoniously. I'm sure you've noticed that when you're in what we call in the flow, or what athletes call being in the zone, when you're just there doing naturally what is best to do, and you're in that, it's just happening naturally, everything seems to come together. You're able to think the right thoughts and do the right things and to act appropriately in situations and to be supportive of others. And it's just like life is cooperating with you and providing you with support and nourishment. And life is like that. There is a larger reality in which we live and move, and which is our foundation. And when we are living right and thinking right and have right understanding, it seems that we have the support of the universe and all of the useful things that we do. And in some religious traditions, the support of the universe is referred to as actions or evidence of grace. Good fortune that occurs that we can't make happen, but that just occurs because we're in the right place at the right time, living effectively with the right state of consciousness. And sometimes you'll notice that actions of grace occur, and you say, I don't deserve this, or I didn't expect this, which indicates that life is supportive of us even when we're not conscious of needing support, or we don't ask for it. Sometimes this happens, I'm sure you've all experienced this. Sometimes you've been in a situation and you didn't know how to solve the problem. You didn't know what to do in a situation, and yet something happened to help you out. Something happened to solve the problem. And then you look back and say, I didn't do that. What was it that did that? Well, life came to your rescue, or if you want to call it God or grace, whatever you want to call it, whatever name is all right. Life takes care of itself. When we are in harmony with the rhythms of life, we find that we have the support of the processes of nature and emerging events, and good fortune occurs spontaneously or naturally. And we find that resources and circumstances and relationships just emerge on time in harmonious ways for our highest good. And it just happens. And we can notice with practice that the more spiritually conscious we are, and the more in harmony with the rhythms of life we are, the more it seems that the universe conspires to provide for us what we need, when we need it, in the most ideal ways. So, I mentioned earlier the importance when meditating of aspiring to experience what we call transcendence, pure existence being, pure consciousness, what yogis call kavaya, the great or supreme aloneness. It is the experience of pure being. And when you have that experience, even for a moment, you recognize it for what it is, and you feel comfortable with it. It is not frightening or unnerving. It is, you feel, you say, I'm home. This is my spiritual home. This is where I belong in understanding and realization. And then, after that, it's one thing to experience that when we meditate. That is very useful. But we have to come out of meditation and interact with family and friends and people in our community and in the world and live effectively. So we want to learn to maintain this awareness of what we are as the spiritual being in relationship to the wholeness of life all the time. So that is called spontaneous awareness of the truth at all times, and it's effortless. It's just there. That is a superior state of consciousness, and it doesn't change, no matter what you are doing. When you're interacting with others, eating your meals, performing your duties, you're always in that awareness of being. Fully alert, fully attentive, fully functional, but you have sort of an awareness of a larger reality, and sometimes this is called cosmic consciousness, an awareness of the wholeness of life. And it's just there constant, it's there all the time. It's something you don't have to try to accomplish anymore after that. There your spiritual endeavors are over with. From there on, you live freely, spontaneously, by grace. It's just everything happens beautifully, blissfully in divine order. That's the highest ideal. So our time together, I see, is about up for this morning, or this afternoon for you in your region of the world. But I'm glad to see so many of you assembled and looking so peaceful and happy and attentive. And it's always enjoyable to spend time with you in this manner. And sometimes I marvel at the technology of our modern times that make possible this intimate communication across the distance. And until I see you again, take good care of yourselves, and I'll be sending waves and blessings constantly to you. Namaste.